welcome to another masterclass with the Modern Conducting Academy. I am Dr. Jacqueline Normandy, and we are here today with Dr. Janet Galvan, and she is the former DCA at Ithaca College and now Professor Emeritus. She has conducted all over the world. She is an avid clinician, honor choir director, lecturer, and we are so thankful to have us here today. I will turn it over to Dr. Galvan.
Great. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. And congratulations on this entire Modern Conducting Academy. It's just a fabulous resource, and I appreciate being part of it. So today's topic is rehearing and storytelling for engaging, meaningful, and effective rehearsals. I told Jacqueline as we were warming up that whenever I'm asked to do a workshop, if they ask me for an hour, I prepare materials for 3 hours or 4 days. And so there's an extensive handout that will have a lot of the things I'm saying that will be available to you. And so my goal is that to give you some long-term ideas and in helping to continue to shape your philosophy. I know mine is still, even though I'm retired from full-time teaching, I still am shaping my philosophy. And then something to think about for long-term after the workshop is over, but also some ideas that you can put into practice immediately. I know I always appreciated those. So I'm beginning with you can read the description, but I'm beginning with the rehearsal philosophy and the pre-planning. And this is really my philosophy. It's I don't think it's anything incredibly innovative, but I think there is a bit of a shift in the way of thinking. And hopefully there will be at least a couple of ideas that might help you rethink about how we approach rehearsals. First of all, one of the things that I tell students, I just said this to a graduate student the other day, who was very nervous about conducting in the class and in conducting in front of me. It's not about us. It's about the singers and the students in front of us. So as conducting teachers, we are there as a guide to support singers through the challenges of the music. It's not about us. If they mess up, it doesn't reflect on us. It's just, we are there to help get them through that. And please forgive these reading glasses. It's very dark in my new study. Also, the conductor as a facilitator. We are there to help. We are there to facilitate, but to allow the students to be very much a part of the rehearsal. Mistakes are okay. That gives us information. How do we turn that into a teaching moment? And hopefully I'll give you some ideas as we go through this tonight. And then the one that I talk about a lot is rehear. If you look at how rehearsal is spelled, this is not the root of the word, but the fact that it has rehear in there, it ignited my imagination years ago when I thought, wow, I see so many rehearsal segments that are just endless repetition. So if I could give the students something to hear, something new to hear up in the music at every rehearsal, wouldn't that be more exciting and interesting? And by the time we are there for performance, we are really singing with musical understanding because we know more than just our part. And then we are a guide to the music that is being studied. Sometimes we step back, maybe in the case for a culture bearer to come in, maybe in the case for someone who has a student who has expertise in a language that maybe is more than we, a native speaker. All of those things. Musicality is not something that we add after the pitches and rhythms are learned. Now, obviously, in the beginning of rehearsals, that we are going to focus on pitch and rhythms more, but I do feel that the musicality is woven in as we are learning pitches. If the focus is on communication and storytelling from the beginning, this becomes more natural to the process. And then various formations. I find that in a lot of choral groups, people stand in the same place beside the same people day in, day out. So they have a very limited view of who is in that chorus. I like to begin in sections in the rehearsal to establish that sectional identity. But sometimes they're on the risers, sometimes they are in circles of their sections. Sometimes I have them in different orders of where they are on the risers. So I like to start with that. And then the sectional placement is done early in the year, that I'll put people where they are within that. There's a whole process to that where people in the front row, the lighter lyrical voices, the people in the back tend to have the bigger voices. But the idea is not that one is better than the other. The idea is that we are trying to find a place in the formation of the choir where everyone can sing freely and not feel that they have to somehow hold back their voice, but they can sing with their real voice comfortably. And I've seen just magic happen. And if you do that exercise, and there are lots of, there's information. If you want to email me, I gave you my email in the handout. I'm happy to tell you how to do that. But it's amazing how quickly you can hear the difference when you move one person to the second row and then you have that front row sing together with a new person. There's just a difference in sound. And it's, again, very clear to the students. It's not that the voice is better. It's just some voices sing better together. And then after the section placements, I would put the groups in octets. That was for my group that was very evenly balanced, or family groupings. I had one group at one point, it was 190 people and very unbalanced. So I just made sure that I had some voice parts, and we would call them family groups, and they would know where to go in the room. So once you have these different things, then I have mixed formation as well. And again, voice testing by row to find the sound. It's a whole different different workshop. But then if you can say, all you have to say is family groups, they know exactly where to go in the room, and then find ways to minimize talking. I sometimes say, I'm going to be giving you directions as you move toward your places, so please move silently. And I would find they would do that pretty quickly. I could also do multiple sections on programming and music selections, but I do think it's important to have one throat lozenge piece to make the rehearsals go better. And that's what I call the throat lozenge piece, one that they can just sing. So even if it never gets much better, they can just sing it. It's a relief. And then the other important thing I think about planning engaging rehearsals is to plan the end rather than just run out of time. So you might glance at your watch, maybe you got behind, you think, oh, I've got to do something. So find a short favorite piece, sing all straight through that, or the section that you're working on, do some sort of final read to see where you were. Rehearsals can be joyous and rewarding even when working hard. I made a huge typo. Joy does not mean lack of focus or not working for excellence. You want to help students discover the techniques so that they can express what they most want to express, so that the technique is always serving the communication. So long-term schedule. I'm going to go through this quickly because I want to get more to the actual rehearsal ideas. I like to plan to a concert. I know exactly how long I've got. I think Charlene Archibald talked a little bit about this, so I'm going to go through this quickly. Again, if you have questions, feel free to ask tonight or another time. But basically, I want to have pieces at different readiness levels. So I'll introduce one and I map out to the end. This is when all the pitches and rhythms have to be learned on this piece, on this piece, and I'll do things like measures 1 through 20. So every day is measured out in terms of what we're going to do. I usually share that with my students, with some of my groups, and they found that very helpful because they could plan. But then the last week before the concert, I want that to be fine-tuning, multiple run-throughs, and a run-through of the entire program, because sometimes you might know you can do each piece, but can you do the whole program? So how does that feel? And then the last week is a natural progression of how the rehearsals have gone rather than stress-filled. And then important, the night of the concert. We can make our singers crazy. We're still fixing things. And yeah, I mean, sometimes we'll work on things before, but the bottom line is I always say to them this: when we go on that stage, we've crossed all the T's, we've dotted all the I's, or as much as we could. now we communicate. And I also say, remember these words: do what we rehearsed. If you think, now I'm going to turn it on, that will ruin the concert. Just simply take a breath, do what we rehearsed. The natural adrenaline will kick it into high gear. But it's really important to teach our students, do what we rehearsed. And tonight is about sharing with the audience what we've worked on. We want to share with them and communicate all that we've learned and all that we feel about this music. So then, score study tells us how to introduce each composition. Some people tend to do everything the same way, and that's one approach. But I like to look at the score and say, okay, here's the score. What's the very best way that we can introduce this? So, for example, a highly thematic composition. Let's look, you begin with a theme, and as much as possible. Now, in middle school, you can't have each voice part sing the theme in every voice because it's out of their range. But in a high school group, college group, elementary, you can do that. So that we go through, and the first day, maybe we just introduce the theme and show where it is in that first section in each voice. And I'll give you an example of that right now. If I can do this, Jacqueline, I hope you're there to help me out if something goes
Yes,
awry. I had
I'm
a little
here.
bit of, my computer has been very stubborn today. So here we've got the Laudate Pure. I love this piece so much because it's so well crafted. But if you look at the first four measures,
1 second. Go ahead and share your screen.
I've got it. It
Okay.
is, you're
It's
not
not,
seeing it?
no, we're not seeing it.
Oh, shoot. Okay, let me try again.
Mhm.
I said share screen. Let me start again. Oh, it's not happening.
Try this. Okay.
Okay. I'm not even seeing. Okay. Sorry, folks. I've never had trouble sharing my screen until today.
There it
And-
is.
Okay. So now we'll do this one. Do you see it now, Jacqueline?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. All right. So this, if you look through the first four measures and then the downbeat, um, you've uh, you've got just the Laudate Puri Dominum. And then you look at the tenor and they've got it. Sit nomen Domini ben. And then it goes on and it goes to the alto and the soprano. So I might just do that the first day. That might be all that we do to go through each theme. Or we might sing through each theme and then have them try to sing the surrounding parts just on this first 2 pages. But if you did nothing but just introduce those themes at the beginning, then that would work out. That would be fine. And so then it might begin with a story. So are you still seeing my screen? I said stop sharing it. Are we good now?
Yep.
Okay. You might begin with the story. For example, Francisco Nunez wrote this delightful piece called La Sopa de Isabel. So one night his wife was cooking Irish stew. Their son Sebastian did not want to eat Irish stew. And so grandma was there and she said, we started dancing around and saying, oh, La Sopa de Isabel, Elizabeth Isabel in Spanish. And so Francisco wrote this delightful song about it, and it's talking all about how delicious it is and how great it is to smell. So just tell them that story, and it puts a whole different introduction, and they are sort of excited to see what's going to happen. Or Christian Grasses, Ábreme la puerta, which is normally it's a Christmas tune, and people tend to sing it. It's part of a collection of carols that they go around and they sing late at night, so they knock on people's door, and it's just an interesting story of how that is used in context in the country. And so we happen to have Pablo Cohen was our guitar teacher at Ithaca, and I knew he would know this piece, and I knew he would know the tradition. He's from Argentina, and his studio is right down the hall from where we rehearsed. So the treble choir went down. I knocked on his door, and they started singing the song, and he just went, "Oh my God." He was so excited to hear it. He said, "This is exactly the way it should be sung." And of course, the singers were so delighted that they found that out. So that was pretty exciting. So that's just beginning with the story, and then you go right into the way things go. Um, so you might begin with the poetry. It- just choose something like a star. It's a complex poem, and I generally start by just having someone read that poem so they know what they're singing about. And we talk about what it means, and we talk about, well, what do you think that means? And the students have different input about that. There's always a poet in your class, someone who has just wonderful ideas about poetry, and that tends to spark the others. Do find out that I don't think poetry is taught as much in high school um, anymore, because it takes my students a while to get into it, but once they do, then suddenly not only are we sharing the story of the composer and the poet, but now we're sharing the stories of each individual singer, because when they talk about what that poem means, it then they're able to express it. I think too often we just sort of skip over the words, and then start somewhere other than the beginning. Um,
Janet, just one second. Sorry to interrupt. Welcome to Andrea Davies and people watching at home. There's a workshop or a worksheet, a handout in the chat and also in the member area for people watching after the fact, if you wanted to look along with Dr. Galvan.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And yes, welcome. We have people streaming in. It's so nice to see you here this evening. And can you tell me where you what you teach, what you do in choral music? I'd love to know about you.
Oh, me? Oh, hi. Nice to meet you. How do I say Dr. Galvan?
Yes, perfect.
Hi, nice to meet you. So my name is JV Stewart, and I am the director of choral music and music education at the St. James School in North Philadelphia.
Wonderful. Good.
Yeah, thank you.
What ages do you teach?
I teach fourth grade through eighth grade.
Wonderful.
Fourth grade general music, and then fifth through eighth grade choir.
Great. Great.
And then I also teach at the Settlement Music School in just kind of different branches in Philadelphia. And those are all their ages 8 to 13.
Perfect. Yay. Yay for you. And we have one other person that's popped in.
Hi, yeah, I'm Andrea Townsend from East County, Los Angeles, and I'm a brand new teacher. I'm teaching one class of entry-level choral music to high school girls at a private Catholic high school.
Great. Well, I hope you both get some great ideas that you can use this evening. So we'll go on. So then you might start somewhere other than the beginning. I was going to show you this, but I think because I'm having a little bit of difficulty with the screen sharing, I listed the music. There's a wonderful piece by Susan Brumfeld. It comes both SADB and in treble. And it starts with a rather complex little intro. Well, that makes perfect sense after you have sung the pieces, because it's basically two pieces put together. And once you've sung those, then that intro makes sense. So with that one, rather than start at the beginning, I just went to the two songs. And first, these two songs, which later are sung together and become partner songs. So start somewhere other than the beginning. Look at where is the logical place to start. What's the hook that is going to get them singing the piece the most quickly? And then sometimes you just do a read through. So it can be a neutral syllable, it can be count singing, it can be solfege, or it can be text, depending on the choir's capability. They don't have to read perfectly to do that. In fact, once I had my youth choir read through Francisco Nunez's Yet Gentle Will the Griffin Be. So hard, bombastic accompaniment all over the place, special effects. So I said, let's start, hang in the music, sing what you can, I'll meet you at the end. So of course, by the end, they were like, whoa, you're just blown away how hard it was. And I said, how many of you sang every single note right? And they, thought that was hilarious. And I said, how many of you sang nothing right? A couple of hands went up. I said, not true. You sang the first note and you sang the last note. So you sang something right. And then we got more serious. Some of them actually had gotten parts of it. And I said, okay, we've got our work cut out for us. Let's see how we can do this. They didn't feel defeated because it's hard. And I said, you're going to love it when we get there. And so I think sometimes just throwing them in the deep end. You also have to balance that with choosing something easy enough that they can. So for example, when I had a very young choir, like second graders, or I think it was even a classroom. So we had learned so, me, so, that's all we learned. But we could read that on the staff. We could do it on our hands. We could do it on my do re mi skirt that I was wearing with all the syllables on my skirt. And so I found a piece. That's all it was. So they read it and I went, you read that entire piece. It was so me. I mean, I would have, I don't know what it would have done if they couldn't have read, but they read the whole piece. And so it's important that we do immediately apply that solfege, because if we just do it in warm up, then they're not going to learn it. They don't care. We have to show them why it's important, why this is helpful. So solfege is more than a warm up. Use it and let them see it's a tool. Sometimes I have them listen to a performance. So for example, Stacey Gibbs, God is a Rock, amazing piece, very difficult, but just to get them inspired. And I if it's Stacey Gibbs, 9 times out of 10, I will play DeWalla Simmons Burke and the Winston-Salem University. That's not the right name of the school. I'm sorry, DeWalla, but look, just I wrote her name for you. It's fantastic. And then that just lets them know, hey, you're going to sing this, and they get very excited. Then sometimes you just layer parts. And Jacqueline, would you mind sharing the Sanctus, the Mozart Sanctus?
Sure. All right, let me pull that up. So you want me
Because
to...
I've been having so much difficulty, and I'm sorry to put you to work.
Sure. No, that's fine. The Mozart, which one?
It's the Sanctus. It is Mozart Sanctus.pdf.
Whoa, sorry. I don't want to close the meeting. Oh, can't minimize. Okay.
You know what? Don't worry about it. It is the Mozart Sanctus from the Missa Brevis in F. It's a gorgeous piece. But basically, I usually start that with just the alto. Da, dee, 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 dee. So I start with just the alto. I think I screwed up a little bit. But gradually, then I'll bring the bass in. And usually I'll say, that's just beautiful as it is. If it had, yes, there it is. So you see the alto line. It's really lovely. Just the alto line alone. And then I said, that would have been enough if he had just written that. Let's add the bass to it. And then we've got the little duet going. And then I add the soprano. And look how he's enhancing this. And then I add the tenor. So they're hearing each part in layers, but they start with the alto. And then everyone responds to that. And it's really just a different way. And then they know more about the piece as they're singing in. So that would be one way. Another way is to track the melody. So in the piece, Erev Shel Shoshanim by Jack Klebanow, or a treble piece, El Monegote, which was arranged by Diana Sayas, those pieces split the melody between parts. So sometimes it's in the alto and sometimes it's in the soprano. So I'll say, okay, just go through with your pencils. And at the beginning, we're going to sing the soprano. You know, this isn't exactly right, but measures 1 through 4. Then we're going to jump down to the alto, and then we're going to jump to the soprano. And so we just track the melody so that they've got this sense of the whole, because the melody trades from voice to voice, which I think is a great compositional technique. But they need to know when they're singing the main idea and when they're singing some sort of harmony with it. So that works really well too. And then sometimes we just play the music and let them, for example, let me see if I can find this really quickly. In Nishka Banya, it's an arrangement of a Serbian piece by Nick Page, and the rhythms da 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 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. I usually will just recording, and I just have them stand, and as they listen, they're stepping 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 da 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 da, and then I usually add 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. Then I will go and just say Nishka ban ya to la vo da ya nish li ye, and it really is it gets them involved. It gets them physically, they think it's fun, they shake their rolls out, plus you're just teaching that rhythm and you're getting that in their body, and that is such a wonderfully invigorating way to do that. Sometimes I'll just have them move. So for example, I love Total Praise, Richard Smallwood, just love that piece, and it's gospel, and so there's this weight that goes along with that. And so then I just have them do a gospel step as the music plays. And the music is playing and they're moving. And then we actually learn the pitches like that. Now, for some of them who are not the most incredibly coordinated, that's a little difficult. But if that is in their body, they are going to sing that differently than if they're just standing still. And after a while, all my students know that if we're doing a gospel piece, they'll just start stepping, because that's the way the tradition goes, and it's really it helps get that music in their body. Sometimes just start by rote, particularly if it's a piece that, some pieces that were originally wrote and you try to put it down on paper, it comes out not exactly the way you want to hear that. So then if I just sing it to them by rote, some of the South African pieces have worked really well that way. And eventually we'll use the sheet once the words get a little more complex. And if you are interested in learning about teaching rote, Nick Page wrote a wonderful book, Sing and Shine On, and he goes through step by step how to teach rote, and he's a master at that. So sometimes just start by rote. Sometimes you might start just at the end of your warm-up, maybe just start a melody. And I saw a dear friend of mine did this with Verleih und Frieden, Mendelssohn, when he auditioned to teach at Ithaca College. So it just begins do, 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 do. So he just started with solfege with that. Do, mi, re, do, do. And then gradually he put in a beautiful vowel. And this was the end of the warm-up he'd already done. And he said, pick up the Mendelssohn. And they looked and they had just sung the first line. Again, it's listening and then reading. And it really worked out beautiful. Sometimes we'll chant the text and have them echo it back. Chanting is a wonderful teaching tool. Now, this next one, and I'm going to try to share again because I want you to see this. This next one I have used, hang on, let me see if I can get this now. I used this with my very young children's choir. And so I just, let me see, can you see that? Do you see that? Or do you see the screen? Yes, thank you. Okay, so I just put up this little cheat sheet and I said, okay, and these were younger singers. I said, if you see this note, and I pointed to that note, you're going to tap one time. If you see this next one, it was in 3/8, 6/8, 9/8, you're going to tap twice. If you see this one, the dotted quarter, you're going to tap 3 times. I didn't want to get into a lesson about, notation yet. Just wanted them to be involved and realize, hey, even if I don't really completely understand, I can use it. And I showed them the rest. And then I said, no, that's interesting. What do you think that means? And one person said, well, they're tied together. And I said, So how many taps do we tap on the first one? They said 3. And I said the second one, they said 2. And somebody came up with the idea, oh, well, you tap that 5. So that's what we did with that. And so then I applied it to the piece of music. Are you seeing that? Everybody see that? The Ella telephony, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is this piece. It is incredibly rhythmically complex, but they just tapped and they're I said, tap about this speed. 1, 2, 3, here. Ooh, once there was an elephant who tried to use the telephone. So we went through that first little verse with that. And of course they mess them up. And I said, oh, let's go back to was. Remember how many times we're going to tap? Oh yeah. Wa. Now, meanwhile, while they're tapping and chanting, at this point I had a pianist, but I have done it where I've played it myself. I was playing the melody. So while they're tapping and chanting, they're hearing the melody. So by the time we worked on all the issues and went through it, they had heard the melody like 6 times. So then I said, let's try to sing it. And we went from there. And it was amazing. I had never done that at that point, and I was kind of amazed at how well it worked. To be honest, I was like, oh my goodness, that was great. So now see, let me unshare, stop the share. So it was just a really easy way to get them into that very hard rhythm, because I liked the piece and I thought it was darling, but I thought, how in the heck am I ever going to teach them this rhythm? And we just took it a little section at a time, and they kind of thought it was fun. They treated it like a puzzle. And then with pieces in language other than English, I used to always teach the music first and then add the foreign language, until I ran across, I think Nishkabanya might have been the one that convinced, not Nishkabanya, Las Amarias might have been the one that convinced me not to do that anymore, or with that piece, because we almost had to learn the piece twice. The words were, the rhythm was so complex and the words were so tied into it that I found it was better to just chant the rhythm, the text in rhythm, get that in there in the pocket, and then add the tunes. And then sometimes when there's compositions and they're in two in a style that might be different, I choose 2 recordings. And I did this for Stacy Gibbs Way Over in Beulah Land, and honestly, both recordings were good, but one was really fast. They sort of mistook speed for rhythm. It was still a beautiful recording and a fantastic choir, but then Dwala's group sang it, and they, you know, laid it back at the tempo that he had suggested, and it was amazing. I said, well, which do you like better? And they all said they're both great. We don't do trashing of choirs in my choirs. I always give them examples and we listen for what's good. We don't listen to tear them apart, because I don't think that sets up a very good example. And but they said, yeah, there's something about that slower one. It just kind of sits. So they knew. So it was just a way of getting them into the style. So the score study actually becomes the rehearsal plan. What's the story of the music? How can we say this? What's the essence of the music? What are we trying to get across? A lullaby, a beautiful sound might be what we want, a sound that's going to soothe someone to go to sleep. A rhythmic idea, excitement, a great poem. But we can decide together, what are we trying to communicate to the audience, and how do we want them to respond? So I talked about rehearing and rehearsal, and we talked a little bit about the Mozart. Gradually we would go all the way through that piece. It's very long, but you know, you can do this with shorter, simpler pieces for whatever level, and we would just see how that music is put together. So how might we rehear? Oh, first of all, we could just have them stand in different positions. If the music is not unison, if it's in parts, I go through and I say, okay, which parts are the duets? Which parts would it be good to sing together? If 2 parts are singing the same thing, like you know, they're singing in unison, the soprano and the tenor, then we might have those two groups sing together. And then if the soprano is harmonizing with the alto and it's all consonant, we might do that. But maybe then the tenor is in dissonance with the soprano. So then have the dissonant ones, so that we're not always rehearsing with all the parts, and we're not completely isolating, but we're finding duets and letting them hear. And for example, when the tenor, when one part has a part that's a really conflict with another one, then they'll go, oh, well, that's why we're having so much trouble. They're singing that note that is so in conflict with what we're singing. They might not know the names for it, but they know that it's in conflict. And then sometimes I'll have the parts are singing the duet stand up and face one another. Hey, altos, stand up, face the sopranos. Listen to what they're singing as it comes to you. And then we might all listen to an interesting part. One day I'll say, hey, let's listen to the alto at measure 45. I did this once in my college rehearsal. And the altos had this really interesting part that was like nothing else that was going on. And they sang it and everybody went, whoa, I had no idea they were singing that. And I said, now sing your part around it, but listen for that. Or if the bass is the big foundation, or the alto is singing like a bass part, if it's a treble, have them listen to that. What's our grounding there? So let's listen to that. So finding those duets, you might, if it's a chord and there's a color tone like a seventh or fourth, then you might say, okay, I only want the basses, alto and soprano to sing, and you'll hear that consonant chord. Now tenors come in and sing your note. Ooh, and they hear that color tone. Oh, so now we know who's singing that color tone. My children's choir loved suspensions. They thought suspensions were the coolest thing ever. When you would lean in and you go, and they would do that action. They thought that was really cool. And then sometimes you'll have a piece where a part is repeated, but it's not exactly the same repeat. So I'll say, okay, rather than just singing straight through the piece, let's start at measure 3, singing the soprano part there. Now let's look at measure 37. It's the part that's similar. Say, take a quick look. Do you think it's the same or different? You'll get different answers. Well, let's sing it and find out. Oh, that one note is different. Circle that note. It's going to get you. Another part, by the way, of preparing, I like to sing through every part. I find, sometimes I'll be singing a bass part and God, that's tricky. I didn't realize how tricky that was. And this particularly helps new teachers or new conductors, because I guarantee you, if you go to a concert and they sing a piece you sang in high school and you sing alto, you're going to know every mistake those altos make. You are going to know, you're going, ooh, that wasn't right. You might not recognize the mistakes in the tenor, but you lived that, you experienced that. So singing through is a great way to find the tricky spots. And then if you see it's tricky, okay, well, how can I help them get that? How can I help them? And sometimes, like there was one piece where it was in G and it went like from, well, it's easy to go. And I said, but we're not going to go straight home. No, we're going to go next door. Now we're just going to go next door first. So just helping them negotiate easy ways. What can make that easier for the students? And then, again, use the solfege. Word painting. There's this part, and again, I had the music for you, and I am in need of music. There's one part in there where the words are the stillness of the sea. And pardon me for turning my back to you, but the altos and the basses are just singing. And then they go to their part. But the altos and the tenor have this rocking motion. And if you sing stillness of the sea, you're going to sing it differently if you've got stillness of the sea. If you've got that going on underneath, you're going to sing it differently and shape it. Stillness. And it really.
Hey, Janet.
Yes.
Could you go over? I had to switch around the sound settings right before the first time you went and played and talked about. I think that the alto motion. Can you do that one more time? It cut out, but it should be fine now.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
The alto and the tenor.
Yes. So the last time you went to the piano, we heard you, but the time before.
Oh. So the soprano bass point. And the alto and
Try it one more time. We heard you last time.
Does that make sense?
That is so weird. It's not picking up. Picked up the other stuff. Can you describe it? Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. So it's does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, there's a terrible echo right now. I think we're okay now. So just finding ways, how is that word painting? Basically is the idea. Stillness. It's like the rocking motion of the sea. So finding that, and students really enjoy us pointing out the word painting. They might not even get it. They might not, my youngest students wouldn't necessarily even, well, they probably would. My granddaughter is now taking music class, and she loves sandpiper running in the sand, sandpiper running in the sand. And she now at age 15 months goes, doodle-loo-loo-loo, doodle-loo-loo-loo. So she kind of gets word painting already that they're running in the sand. So that can start early if we point it out. So then I'm going to look at time because I know we are somewhat limited. We decide with our formations how the students stand. Now, it might be that they're very inexperienced singers, so they're going to basically stand in their sections. But I found pretty young singers can do mixed arrangements pretty early. But I always would say to them, I'm going to put you in mixed position. Let's try this out and see if we can do it. But if you really need to be beside someone who's singing your same part, let me know. And that can be private. And then I would just arrange it. So I've got this brilliant soprano who can sing anything. So I put the little insecure soprano beside her. Then I can put somebody else a different part on the other side of the soprano. But I would just make that up ahead of time so that no one was embarrassed about telling me that. Some of them didn't care. They go, oh, I need to be beside somebody. But others were a little embarrassed about it. So if we can save face, that's good. And nobody needs to know. I said, just tell me privately. And when I put you in a position, I'll make sure that happens. So then I think this is probably more for the people who are working a little more complex music. But for example, what is it important for the audience to see? I like to do classical and Baroque music. I like to do that in sections. I frankly feel if we don't make the form clear for the audience with Mozart, if you don't hear the form, it's kind of a big muddy mess. But if you can hear, oh, there's the thing there, then it makes sense. So I find that's easier to hear in sections. There are groups that pride themselves have always been in mixed position, but I feel, I don't know, I feel like we lose a little something with some of the music, and I like that variety. And then I gave you a description of what I might do with Sean Kirshner's Unclouded Day. And sorry, Sean, I misspelled your last name. I got heavy on the R's. Sometimes in the rehearsal process, if they're singing out of tune in sections, put them in mixed position and the tuning will get better. And I did this with my children's choir. We were doing this Kodai piece, Tanznota, and it was just not quite in tune. So I had them get in mixed position, and suddenly they could hear the parts around them. It was in tune. So we decided to do that. Then at the concert night, we sang it, and I said, get back in sections. They got back in sections, and it was even better. So sometimes it doesn't need to stay in mixed position, but they just need to experience that, but that will stay in their ear. So just trying different things. And one thing you do have to do is establish moving. When you are with a new group, and just say, we don't want to lose 30 seconds, but I'd love for us to be able to experience different positions. So if you can work with me and just go silently, and I like to give them something to do, or give them directions, and that can be established if you know the group well. And I think it takes a while. There are some that just think if their feet are moving, their mouths do too. Or if their knees are moving, their mouth starts moving too. But we just established that, our knees really aren't attached to this. And so we just need to be able to move quietly so that they can hear what they're going to do next, so that we can use the most of our time. So then I did a whole session at ACDA National, and also on the conductors colloquium a few years ago, about the use of movement rehearsal. So there's a lot of this that you can read and see on those other videos, but I want to just talk a little bit about, I think movement is so important. I always said, if the body goes, the voice follows. I found out later, I think I heard that from Phyllis Curtin as freshman in college, because I did do a master class with her. I thought I made it up, but then a friend of mine, when I said that, she said, oh my gosh, Phyllis Curtin says that all the time. And I'm going, maybe I didn't make that up. Maybe I heard that from her in that master class, and it just stuck with me. But even in the warm-ups, if you can have them doing something. So for example, I'm just going to do this. You can stand with me if you want. And I have them start as if we're going to gather our breath. So if I go, ni, ne, na, no, no. I usually do it when I'm breath. I don't know what happened. But I always emphasize breathing space under your arm, gather your breath, ni, ne. So just starting with a simple thing like that. Or no, 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 no. So even with the solfege, this idea that there's life in sustained pitch. No, no, rather than no. And then it tends to sit on the sound. And then you can, if you're really brave, and I did this all the time, even with honor choirs I never met, then I would have them step that. So we take a preparatory breath back, and we'd say, no, 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 etc. That engages the lower body, so it gets us a little more connected, and it also makes this beautiful line. And then eventually I would carry that into phrasing. For example, let's see, so we step the rhythm, our feet are the rhythm, and our arms are the line. Heaven is here, unfolding, unfolding. So I'm stepping the rhythm, but I'm showing the phrasing. And then when you go back to conducting, heaven is here, unfolding, they've already experienced. So I would start small with those types of things, but it really is, you can have them step the rhythm, and it's hard to get it first. But then I usually stop and say, what changed for you? And it's amazing the answers you'll get when you ask them and involve them. And I'll often ask them after a rehearsal segment, another thing of engaging them. What changed for you when we sang that T more clearly? Did it feel differently? What do you think sounded? And then if you're working with one section, which we do sometimes, where we really need to get that, and say to the others, I want you to listen and tell me what you think. And, oh, was that better? if we can keep them involved and listening and hearing and engaged. And then, sometimes if we're having trouble with high notes, my voice is being weird tonight, but for example, if I'm singing, and I'm having, it's getting stuck, then I just sometimes have them go, or even just wiggle their jaw and, say, you're going to feel foolish, but just something to free. It frees the voice, it frees the body. And then it energizes the sound in slower pieces. You know how if you've got a piece that's all quarter notes, it tends to be note, 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 note. So then if we've got them stepping, so that this arm is showing the lead to the next note. Then when we conduct and we show them that legato, that means something. I often say, conduct with me, show me a legato line. If you don't have room in your rehearsal space, you can even have them do this. I'm so sorry about my singing voice tonight. I apologize. Don't sound very good. So it aids in intonation. Again, that sense of lifting really does help. And it just provides a kinesthetic image of phrase, form, and relationship. And then sometimes I have taken one section of a piece and said, okay, you're going to be in your family groups. 5 minutes, you're going to choreograph this section of the music. You're going to show me how it goes. So I give them 5 minutes, and you got to make sure you've got at least one leader in each group. And I find it so exciting to walk around the room and hear them talking about, oh, we have the altos there, and here we all come together, and their hands will go up. And then we take about 5 minutes and we go around the room, and everybody sings, but the group will show what they've done. And it just gets them thinking about the music. That's a big step, and that's down the road, but that is possible to do. I've done that. I've even done that at all states where they've never seen me. I'm watching my time here. Okay, so then rhythmic integrity. I'm big on rhythm because I think so often we don't get there. One thing I did want to say is I think I didn't stress about it. Make sure that we invite the singers to apply what they know. For example, a lot of them know what this means, but they don't do it. And there is something that has been in some of the choral culture where students don't feel free to be musical or to apply what they know. It's like it's all has to come from the director. So I just give them an open invitation to be musical. So if you see something, sing something. If they know what that means, why not apply it? But so often they somehow feel inhibited about doing that. So I like to. Okay, so count singing. There is a thing that Robert Shaw started, count singing. I know a lot of you know how to do that, where you just go through a piece and you'll count 1 and 2 and T and 1. And that I've used I did it with the Children's Honor Choir years ago when I did that. They had never used it before. But I'll start it, for example, and this note is held for 3 counts. So when we get there, instead of singing the word, I want you to go 1 and 2 and T and T. And they did it. Now, if you take that to the next level and you really do get so they can use that count singing, I think start it as a problem solver and then gradually move into, just like the solfege. Solfege is not, oh shoot, I skipped that. I'll get back to that. It's not an all or nothing proposition. You can use it as a problem solver. So count sing and then say, okay, now half the class, I sometimes say if your last name is A through M or rows 1 and 3, however you want to do it, you count sing, and the other half of the class do the actual text, and then I'll have them listen. And I'll say, now, did they match? And I go, oh, they usually figure out that the words aren't as rhythmic, or if it's a sustained note, it's not as energetic. And so I'll say, okay, now try it again, the sustainers, and keep the energy, that pulse in your mind. Ah, I'm thinking 1 and 2 and 10. So the counting is not just about rhythm, it's keeping energy going through that note. So it's another way of doing this, right? So then you switch. If you're a counter, be a worder, and if you're a worder, be a counter. And then gradually we all get to the text. And then there's movement. So I'm going to see if I can share. This is a really hard example, but what the heck? Where is it? Well, this one. It's hard because the score is so marked up. Can you see it?
Not yet. Did you did you press share screen yet?
I sure did.
Let's try it again.
All right. I'm so sorry. I
do
know
know
how to do this. I just haven't been Zoom for a while now. And
There we go. Perfect.
okay. So, all right, looking. Wait, can everybody, because I think we've got an echo going. Okay, so this is in 6. So if you look at that, I even wrote out the counts you would see. So one way to do this is to just, you go 1 and 2 and T and 4 and 5 and 6 and. Does that make sense? So beat off. So sorry about that. Beat. You're on the beat, off the beat, on the beat, off the beat. So 1 and 2 and T and no. Look at the alto part. Do you see that in the first measure? So no, right? So if I'm looking at the soprano part, it's different. Na, sorry. Na, sorry. Na, no, na, no, no. So you know if you're on or off the beat. Gradually, I take them then from that to, I'm going to close that up and quit my share. I gradually take them then to conducting it. So I'll say, here's how it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, go with me, or I will do it backwards so that they can be in my direction. And we're going to go no, na, no, no, na, no, no, na, no, no, na, no for the altos, and na, no, na, no. So then they've got it lined up now. And I said, in the concert, I told my children's choir this, it took us so long to learn this piece. I said, if we get off, you know, you've experienced, so you know sopranos, you're off the beat on the downbeat. Na, and you're on the beat on beat 3. Na, da, 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 da. And the altos, you're on it and off, on it and off. So, they did the impossible. In the concert, they got excited, they got off, they got back on, which is so much harder than staying together, because we had done so much of knowing when you're on the beat. But I find this sort of thing so helpful. The other thing is teaching 3 against 2. There's an exercise. This is where I wish I were in the room with you. Oh my goodness. But it's a little process. Put your hand up. So your right hand you'd be facing somebody, and their left hand would be under your right hand. Your left hand is up to receive their taps. Okay. So we're going to go 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. Then we're going to switch it and go 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, T, and then I'll say switch, and now we go 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, T, 4. Now switch to go 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. And then I'll say now the one person is going to be 3, the other person is going to be 2. So one person is going to be going 1, 2, T, 4, 5. The other person will be 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. And then they feel that 3 against 2. Then the next step, now you take away the interpulse, you just think it. And now you're going to go 1, 4, 1, 4. And you're going to go 1, T, 5. And then you do that together, switch it a few times. Then you have one doing the 3 and one doing the 2. Eventually, I'll take it to this. 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. 1, T, 5, right? 1, sir. 1, 2, T. I did that wrong. 1, 2, T, 4, and then you change it to 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6, and get it within that. I'm sorry, I just lost my mind just for a minute there. I was watching that animal. That was so beautiful. I get excited over cats. It was a cat, right? Yeah. So anyway, so you're going 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, T, 4, 5. And they will then do it. So rather than spoon feeding that rhythm, we can do that. And my college students love that. They love that as well as the younger students. And so owning that rhythm. I also was going to talk just briefly about solfege. So I just start with I use it in the pieces. I'm going to try to share the screen one more time. I don't think you can hear the piano, so I'm not going to try that again. We're just learning all kinds of groovy things, aren't we? So right here, can you see that? Do you see that score? So if you look at the alto, so if we start just solfeging that one line, right? Sol, do, ti, do, re, mi, and then you look, and that was terrible singing, sorry about that. Look at the bass now. They've got mi, re, mi, fa, sol. No, I will give you a clarification here. There are some editions where it's C sharp in there, but I'm just doing this for the point of the exercise, not to argue. I talked with 2 or 3, great scholars of Handel in Canada and in the US, and we made a decision, but it is differing. But just solfeging that, so you're either going on. And finding differences like that. I again apologize. I usually have a rather nice singing voice. Not brilliant, but it's okay. But tonight is not working. So at any rate, using it for finding places like that. If there's a problematic place, pull it out and learn. And my students learn Phi and C and all of those pretty early. So using solfege as a problem solver works really, really well. Excuse me, at least I'm not coughing. I was coughing earlier today. And I apologize that my voice is not here. So then in the handout, I've given you ideas about using the singing voice. Important that we use our posture. I review posture every day with younger singers. I'm reminding them that I'm giving them my posture. Also with the breath. Sometimes I've had people go through and we start at the end of the piece because, in a composition, the breath tends to get higher and higher and higher as the piece goes on. So we'll start at the end. How do we want this last note to sound? And we get a full breath. And then we say, now let's start at the last phrase and sing with that full breath. That's what we want to get to. And then gradually we back it up more and more. And I'll say, okay, what do you think? Did we end up on that sound? No, breath got higher. And I will remind my singers, we start the sound here, not here. And sometimes I'll say to them, did you start that sound here or here? And they'll go, oh, that's there. So sometimes we'll go through and we'll just stop at the end of every phrase. This works better for strophic type things. And we'll just stop and go. And then we start the phrase. And then we stop at the end, get a good full breath. And then we go and we say, now let's see if we can do that faster. And one vocal coach taught me this wonderful thing, that the release of one breath can be the intake of the next. So if we're singing, we'll go. So as I release that sound, I'm also taking the next breath in. And that's a beautiful reminder. We do have to remind them about breathing and vowels. No corners go out for the vowels. So we talk about long, tall vowels. And I've just given you a lot of information about voice. You're happy to ask about that. One thing that I think a lot of people miss are the vacuum cleaner consonants or the consonant contaminators, which are L, M, N, R, N, right? So if those are at the end of a word, they're going to suck that vowel toward them. And so a good technique to do that is, rather than using the consonant that's written, if you can put like a K or something that's not a contaminator, just be careful with what consonant you put, because I have on occasion had them sing a nasty word. So just be careful how you end that. I did it once, and I had 20 freshmen observing me work with my children's choir, and I had them sing this one word, and I could just see all the phones. Everybody starts texting, do you know what you just made them sing? So it's like, be careful with that. But it's a really good technique. So it looks as if our time is just about up. I do want to stop to see if there are any questions either in the chat, or do you have any questions? It's a lot of things, but I just wanted to get your appetite whetted for trying new ideas, doing something different. So do we have any questions? It's a lot of stuff.
While people are thinking of any questions they might have, I wanted to chime in. I have never seen this exercise that you were doing. I mean, I've seen bits something like it, but never applied to mixed meter. And I was like, oh, I want to try this. It sounded amazing. And it's amazing that when you partner with someone, it keeps you accountable, and you feel it. Like if you're a little bit off, you're like, oh, there it is.
Yes.
And then feeling it with the mixed meter, I've never seen that. So I'm excited to try it sometime.
Cool. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone have questions? You can put them in the chat or say it out loud.
I see all sorts of things, and over greeting and meeting, and so well, I hope you at least got a couple of ideas, and I think it's hard to know. I had so much information that I didn't know really how long that it would go on. If you'd have questions, to stop me. But yeah, I think it's probably a good place to stop, because we're just about at our time. Does that make sense to you, Jacqueline?
Yeah, that's wonderful. I thank you for this masterclass. It was so jam packed with technique after technique after technique after technique, and I don't know, being in the honor choir situations and working with different groups, I knew right away. I'm like, I can use that. That works. That will work. That will work. That will work. And it's gem after gem. So thank you so much, Dr. Galvan. Oh, Andrea.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you. Sorry, there's a lot of but I know I can definitely use. I loved your movement, and especially as a way of feeling the legato line. it's so funny to watch my high schoolers. I have like not 3 ninth graders, 3 freshmen, a junior, and 3 seniors. And they're so funny about moving. Like it's like it's good when I get them to move, but they're really shy about moving. But we have this one piece where I'm really struggling to get them to sing the line. They're sort of bum, 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 singing every note. And so I'm going to try that because I think that really is going to give them a kinesthetic experience. So thank you for that.
Oh, great. There
I mean, there are
always
lots of things I can use, but that one I'm thinking about this one particular piece. The other was about involving them in a conversation about what do we want the audience to feel. We've started to talk a little bit about this one piece about what's going on. But we're doing an African Noel, and it sounds sad when they're singing. I'm like, so we need to have a conversation about, is this sad? Like what, so that was also, really helpful to have a conversation with them about what, and then we have, like Jingle Bell Rock. What do they want? What do we want people to feel about that? So I'm definitely going to use some of those things too. So thank you.
I think the more we can involve them and give them ownership. I learned a trick. It was kind of self-preservation a little bit, but seriously, I did want them to know when we would go and perform, like for a conference for ACDA, there's so much work involved in that, and you have to be so well prepared. So I played the program for them. I would play at the beginning of the year. Here's the program I'm thinking of. What do you think? And it was so interesting. One year they said, "Oh, I love it. I love it." And they're excited. And then one girl raised her hand and she said, I really like this program, but I don't see how the chanson fits in the program because your programs are always so cohesive. And I said, think about that. And I went home and I realized I just wanted to do the chanson because I had done the audition. No one knew it. And I wanted to share that. And she was right. It didn't fit. So I came back with the Foray Tanto Mergo. Turned out beautifully because we were in Boston and we ended up singing in Old Trinity with the beautiful organ. And so I had a student play the organ. She was exactly right. And they were stunned that I actually changed the program because of input from a student. But, that's the only time I've had to change it. Usually they say, yay, and all of them did. But this one brave girl spotted it and she was so right. She was absolutely right. It would have been fine, but what we ended up was better. And so, that way they feel invested. And then if they start complaining, you say, hey, you like the program, then you've got, at least you've got, they can take some ownership. But I do think they take ownership. And when I played Sarah Cortell's Snow Angel, we have got to do that. And, just they get excited. And I like to find recordings. I used to never play recordings for my students when I first started teaching. I was going to teach music literacy. And then I realized they very quickly, within the first 6 weeks, they need to hear recordings of other choirs because they don't even know what they're supposed to sound like. So, it was better that I played for them. So anyway, thank you so very much for being here. And I'm so thrilled that I'm seeing the chat comments, and that's lovely. And you're so smart to be a part of this program. I've seen the clinicians, and there's just been so many wonderful presenters. So anyway, thank you. So nice.
Thank you so much, Dr. Galvan. Well, with speaking of the great, presenters and clinicians we've had on, you are absolutely amazing conductor in our field. I am so honored to have you be a part of this series. So thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Javius. Thank you, Linda, for joining us, and for everyone at home. Again, if you'd like a professional development certificate, please feel free to email me. And if you are watching after the fact, just send a few notes along with your request, and I'll be happy to send that over. Thank you so much. Have a great night.